Hi folks, and welcome to Truck King. With me today is the 2024 Ford Ranger Lariat, and this model is fit with the new 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how the extra power feels, and then we're going to go on a long drive and figure out what the fuel economy is, so make sure you stay tuned. Let's start this one by taking a closer look at this powertrain. So like I said, this is the 2.7 liter turbocharged V6. This engine was late availability, so it was not on dealer lots until just recently here later in 2024. So the power we're talking about, 315 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque, and that is sent through a 10-speed automatic transmission. And one good thing to note is that Ford recommends just 87 octane. So regular fuel is what's called for here. We don't need to put premium into this one. So we can drop the hood and just look at this model. As I mentioned, this is a Lariat. So this is a top trim example of this Ranger. Lariat gets all the chrome finishing. So you can see up there in the grill, chrome around the Ford badge there. Some nice chrome down there on the wheels. And our Lariat today does have the FX4 package, so we have a slightly more aggressive tire, a Wrangler Goodyear Territory ATS. So not quite as aggressive as a Territory you might see on, say, a Ford Bronco or the Ranger Raptor, but more aggressive than what you're going to get from standard. Now, same thing, you can see chrome mirror caps, chrome door handles, chrome on the outer edge of that step down there. And then the FX4 badging back here on the rear quarters. FX4 on this truck means skid plates and also a locking rear differential, plus some unique suspension components and tuning. Now, something new for Ranger for this generation is that step down there to access the bed. Really nice and deep, which is good. You can get a big boot in there if you need to. Now, looking at the bed, we just have a short bed on this Ranger, and of course Ford went away from offering different bed options. So this is the only bed that you're going to get here on the Ranger. It's a 5-foot bed. We do have a few features in our bed, such as power over here. That's 12-volt power, and then a 3-prong plug on the other side. There's also lighting in this bed and 3 tie-down points, one back here, one in the center, and then one up there at the front. I do wish we had some more tie-downs, but outside of that, this bed is pretty standard and offers everything you could want. Plus, I should have noted this, but the tailgate is damped, which I like as well. Now finally, we can talk towing and payload. You can see the tow rating here. It's north of 7,000 pounds on this model. And then for payload, it's not a terrible 1,326 pounds. Alrighty folks, so now our drive begins. So we're gonna head over to the gas station to start our fuel economy test. But before we do that, I gotta feel this power, and I don't wanna ruin the fuel economy for the test. So here we are on an empty road. I got it in 2-wheel drive and in sport mode. Yes, we do have sport mode. Let's foot to the floor, feel the power. Ooh! And there's 100 kilometers an hour. Oh my gosh. Well, pronounced lag. I think if you go back and watch sort of when I made that sound, it's a good second, 2 seconds after I put my foot into it, I noticed it was around 3,500-ish RPM. But oh my gosh, once the boost built up and hit, the power feels really good. No surprise. So over the smaller EcoBoost, this thing is giving us 45 extra horsepower and 90 extra pound-feet of torque. Not a massive jump, and you know what? I don't think the smaller EcoBoost feels underpowered at all in this truck. I think it feels well matched. But if you are someone who, you know, values that extra power because you're towing a lot, you're hauling a lot of payload, you're doing extra work with your truck, sure, having a little bit more can be helpful and also just gives you peace of mind. So that's sort of the important thing we're doing today, is saying, you know what, if you do want this extra power, which definitely feels good, how much is it going to cost you at the fuel pump? And that's what we're going to try and figure out. And I did mention towing. I should also say that the tow rating doesn't change. So it's not like because you got the bigger engine, you can now tow a larger number. It's 7,500 pounds across the board. So both EcoBoost do the same tow rating. So it's not about getting a bigger number here. It's more about just how they're going to feel once you hook the weight up. And I'll also comment on the 1,300 pounds of payload on this truck. That is actually one of the lower numbers I've seen on this new Ranger. It's one of the areas I think Ford did an excellent job was with payload on this truck. But this is also the first time I've been in a truck with the larger engine. So yes, going for the EcoBoost also means you're gonna sacrifice some payload, probably around 200 pounds or 150-ish pounds compared to a truck that was fit with the smaller engine. So yeah, let's head to the gas station now, and we're going to start our fuel economy loop. Okay folks, we're filled up. Now we can hit the road. First of all, you can see on a full tank, it says we're getting 632 kilometers. And I can switch that over. That is 392 miles. And this is an 18.8 gallon fuel tank. Now we will go into our trip. We'll go to trip 2. And we'll hold OK to reset it. There you go. Trip 2 all reset. So now we're going to go do 100 kilometers. It's about 62 miles. And we will see what the fuel economy is. As we get underway here, let me just tell you what the plan is. So I'm going to stay on mostly secondary highways and be doing between 80 and 90 kilometers per hour. And then I'm going to end with a short stint on a 400 series highway, like an interstate, where I'm going to be doing anywhere from 110 to 115 kilometers per hour. So a bit of a mixed use, and I have a couple small towns I'm going to go through here as well. So there'll be a bit of stop-start mixed in too. So let me also tell you the official ratings. This Ranger with this larger EcoBoost engine is rated at 20 miles per gallon combined, where the Ranger with the smaller EcoBoost engine is rated at 22 miles per gallon. So yes, the EPA tells us that this is going to be 2 miles per gallon worse. It's good for 19 in the city and 23 on the highway. So 20 miles per gallon is the mark that we're looking to at least hit and maybe exceed. We'll see how it shakes out when we're all done. But for now, let's keep on driving. It's almost time to pull back into the gas station, but before we do, let me just talk to you about driving this Ranger. So I think one of the biggest changes that I feel from the previous generation to this gen is just how much more comfortable it is suspension wise. I think the last Ranger in the rear end with those leaf springs, it always felt a little stiff, a little choppy, even sort of driving up steep driveways and just running over speed bumps, stuff like that. It really pronounced itself in the back that it was stiff, and this truck just feels nicer day to day. It's not quite as stiff, I should say, but it's also not too soft or anything. It does have that nice balance. So I think in suspension tuning, that's where Ford made some of the biggest advances with this new gen of Ranger. And then just on the interior, you know, when the last Ranger showed up in North America in 2019, the interior already felt old because it was a number of years old and it had been on sale in other world markets. So yes, when that thing showed up, it already felt a bit dated. So now we have the updated interior. I'm here in a Lariat, so this thing is full of features, fully digital gauge cluster, the large screen in the center stack, wireless charging for my cell phone. All of the features you're gonna want in a modern vehicle are definitely here. And then just the way it looks, you know, you have this vertical positioning of the screen, which Ford is doing in a lot more vehicles. I like that. The vents sort of wrapped in different colored bezels, and you're also getting some sort of chrome accents. I like that. The seats themselves are fairly comfortable. I wouldn't complain about them. Pretty supportive. I do like sort of how high the backrest is, where the headrest is. So yeah, overall comfort, both on-road and up here in the cabin, I think are definitely improved compared to the last Ranger. And it drives, yeah, it drives pretty nice now. If I do have one complaint to level against the Ranger, and it's actually more of a complaint with a lot of vehicles these days, it has to do with the semi-autonomous drive system, sort of the driver's aids that are here. The big one for me is lane keep assist here in this Ford Ranger. So lane keep assist, I should mention first, comes on automatically when you turn on the cruise control, and when I'm on the highway, I usually use the cruise control, and I did today. So I turned on cruise control, lane keep comes on. It just tends to want to drive in sort of a slightly different part of the lane than I want to drive in. So right away when lane keeps on, I feel the truck starting to fight against my hands and take me somewhere else. So I say, okay, you know what, I'll let the system do its thing. And then just I lightly rest my hands on the steering wheel, and especially on the highway where there's no sharp turns, that's enough. I'm paying attention, my hands are on the wheel. If I need to take control, I will. The frustrating thing though is that I constantly get the keep your hands on the wheel message showing up in the info cluster because the truck doesn't know I'm here. So then I have to go out of my way to put a little bit of torque into the wheel to just sort of jerk it one way or the other so that the truck knows that I do have my hands on the wheel. It's a really frustrating experience. The system works well, you know, the lane keep, as long as you got the clearly painted lines, and on the highways you almost always do, the system does its job. So I'm inclined to sort of let it do its job, and then it gets mad at me because it doesn't know that I'm here driving it. And then if I just drive how I normally would, well then I constantly have this torque in the steering wheel pulling me to a different part of the lane, and that doesn't feel good on my hands. So what's the culmination of this? I shut it off. I shut it off almost right away every single time because I just don't want to deal with the lane assist. I really dislike sort of this gray area that we're in with these features. The truck wants to drive for me, but it's also taking zero liability if there's a problem. So the way they've solved this is by saying, well, you have to keep your hands on the wheel. And well, I am keeping my hands on the wheel, and you don't know that. So anyways, it's a frustrating experience. It's not actually unique to Ford. I've had the same experience in a Toyota recently. So these are sort of the way all the brands are doing it. They're giving us these features, but then they're also making sure that we're still paying attention and have our hands on the wheel. And I'm not against full self-driving. I'm just much more sort of black and white. Either drive for me or don't drive for me. I hate this kind of middle ground that we seem to be stuck in right now. So yes, when it comes to the driver's aid features, they work fine. I just find them, you know, very annoying when you're trying to just cruise down the highway. So I shut them off. And we'll be pulling back into the gas station here in just a moment. And basically what I told you off the top was true. It was mostly secondary highways. We were doing 90 kilometers an hour, I would say, most of the time. And then I did merge onto the 400 for a bit. On there, I was doing 110 and then up to 115 kilometers per hour. And it's not a hot day, it's a nice day. It's about 26 degrees Celsius today. So yeah, when we pull back in, I will tell you what the numbers are. And you can take a closer look at the numbers right here. So we did a total of 104.3 kilometers, and we managed 9.7 liters per 100 kilometers, which just on the gut check feels pretty solid. Anything under 10 liters per 100 is feels pretty good for a mid-sized truck. So you can change the measurements. I did want to say I do like that Ford gives you all these individual choices. So if you do want Celsius but then miles, you could do that. If you do want to change this to, you know, kilopascals but then still see things in liters per 100, you can do that too. So yes, they give you all these unit choices, which I like. Anyways, I was going to switch this over for our US folks, so you can see that's a total of 64.8 miles, and we managed 24.1 miles per gallon. So yes, according to the trip computer, we beat out that EPA combined number. But now we'll go fill up, we'll do the math ourselves, and we'll see what that result is. All right, let's do the math ourselves here, folks. So you can see right here on the receipt that we use 9.117 liters of fuel, and we went a total of 104.4 kilometers. Multiply by 100 to move the decimal, and that gives us 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers. So the real math is even saying that the fuel economy was better than what the computer told us. Now, I will say these things are never perfectly scientific. I did use the 2-click method, so I fill until it clicks, let it sit for about 30 seconds, and then fill till I get the second click. That's in order to try and keep the fills consistent. So yes, not perfectly scientific, but I like to think that the real number is probably somewhere between the computer and my math. So the computer told us, 9.7, and my math said 8.7. So somewhere in the middle, which is, again, pretty impressive fuel economy, and definitely as good, if not a little bit better, than what the EPA suggests. I'm sure if you put a big trailer on the back, that would probably not be the case, because that's usually the thing with EcoBoost, is that with that turbo, if you can stay out of the turbo, it's good fuel economy, and then when it's working, it gets thirsty. But that's neither here nor there. In today's test, this EcoBoost, yeah, it did pretty dang well, considering it's the more powerful option. Well, folks, we're coming to the end of this one. You've now seen the fuel economy, and I got to tell you that I feel pretty good about that number, considering the power we have here. Outside of that, you have to give Ford credit for updating the things I think needed updating with this new gen truck. It's more comfortable to drive, and it has a fully modern interior finally. Plus, you got to give Ford credit, they have the most engine options now in this mid-size segment. You got a small turbocharged 4-cylinder and 2 different turbocharged 6-cylinders, when a lot of other brands are just moving to the small turbo 4. Ford is giving us more choices, and I appreciate that. So why don't you drop in the comments now, let me know what you think of my fuel economy results and just the brand new Ford Ranger overall. While you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.